So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon on AI frauds and scams and protecting cyber safety. So we'll be talking about both of those issues with our guest speakers today. I'm pleased to have the privilege to be partnering today with the OPP, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, as well as the Ontario Securities Commission, and as part of the OPP, or sort of the anti-fraud with the RCMP as well, to host this important session today. Before we begin, I would like to provide our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we gather on the traditional territory of a number of First Nations and acknowledge their stewardship throughout the ages. We seek a new relationship with the original peoples of this land, one that is based in honor and deep respect. Just a few housekeeping or logistics for today. Because we do have quite a few people, we are muting the microphones for the attendees today. As I mentioned, please post comments in the chat box and questions in the question and answer box. We will get to your questions at the end of the session today, and we will direct those to the speakers that are most appropriate to respond to the question that you have. We are privileged to have our ASL interpreters again with us today. As you can see, they are on our screen. You can change your own personal view on your computer of how you would like to view the speakers. At the top right-hand corner, there's a little grid box, and you can choose whether you want speaker view, gallery view, and you can also change the image of how big you want the speakers versus the PowerPoint on your own individual screen as well. Just as a reminder, we do appreciate your feedback after the session. So there will be a pop-up after the end of the session to do a survey, as well as an email follow-up. It only takes 2-3 minutes, not even that, just to finish the evaluation. We do appreciate that. Gives us some information on how we did, as well as other topics that you might want to learn about. We are recording today's session, so it will be posted on our website within 1 to 2 days after the session. Just take time to upload that, and any links that are shared today, we'll also post that along with the webinar that our speakers talk about. And just a reminder that this is a public forum, so we do want to respect your personal privacy and confidentiality. So if you do have a personal situation, please reach out to us and we can connect you with the appropriate resources and supports. And if the question is directed to maybe one of our speakers, we can try to make contact, connect you to the appropriate person. So if you want to keep questions to more of a general sense in terms of a situation or that pertains to the topic today, please post that. But as you say, if there's something a specific concern or that you would like us to talk more offline, we'd be more than pleased to do that more in a confidential manner for you. Just for those who are attending for the first time, I know we do have many followers for our webinars, but our mission really is to make sure that you, seniors in our community, are feeling safe and respected and have a strong voice in our community. And we are mandated to work with our community partners and to implement the Ontario strategy to combat elder abuse. And we've been doing that work since 2003. So over 20 years, we've been working in our communities across Ontario to implement the strategy. And that strategy is funded under the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility. And there's 3 main pillars to that strategy: education and awareness, training frontline staff who work with older adults, as well as working with our partners to coordinate services to better respond to elder abuse. And you can find more information about the work that we're doing in all 3 of those pillars on our website. So just to give you an overview of how we're going to structure today, As I did the introduction about our organization, I'm now going to introduce our speakers, and then I'm going to turn it over to first Chris Allum from the Ontario Securities Commission. And then after that, then we'll have Jeff Horncastle as well as John Armit all following up that presentation. And then we'll talk, take some question and answers and share some resources with you and give you some contact information for the speakers for further discussions, and just tell you about some other upcoming events that we have planned until the end of the year, which is soon fast approaching. So it gives me pleasure to introduce Chris Allum. So Chris and I have worked together for many years, and I've done other presentations together. So I'm so pleased that she was able to join today. Chris is a senior advisor and investment engagement stakeholder with Stakeholder. She works in stakeholder partnerships with the investment office at the Ontario Securities Commission. She works with many organizations to deliver education on fraud prevention for older adults. Prior to working with the Ontario Securities Commission, she worked at the Toronto Stock Exchange. She has experience in adult education, curriculum resource development, event management, and relationship management and community outreach. So welcome, Chris, to our session today. Joining her is, Jeff Horncastle, and Jeff has worked with fraud prevention in the intake unit at the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre for the past 6 years, and has been acting in the client and communications outreach officer position for 2 years, where he coordinates fraud prevention initiatives and messaging. So welcome, Jeff. I actually saw you on television the other night. And joining, last but not least, is John Armit. And John he's an active detective sergeant. He's been a member of the Ontario Provincial Police for 23 years, so has lots of experience. He's worked in general investigative duties, major crime, traffic services, and as a community service and media officer. In 2015, John began working in his current position with the OPP's anti-racket branch, investigating economic crimes and political corruption. So welcome, John. So I'm going to stop my screen and turn it over to Chris Allum, who's going to start the presentation on AI frauds, and I will let her start the session.
Thank you, Rianne, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As Rianne mentioned, I'm going to share my screen, so just give me a moment while we get this going. There we go. So today I'm really going to talk to you a little bit about fraud and also share with you what we're hearing about from people and their concerns with AI, and just touch on that briefly, and then talk to you a little bit about what you can do to protect yourself from these fraudsters. So before we get into our fraud prevention messages, I'd like to take a moment to talk a little bit about the Ontario Securities Commission, what our organization is all about, and why we are here speaking to you today. The OSC, we are a government agency, and we are responsible for regulating the capital markets in Ontario. A key part of our mandate is to provide protection to investors. One of the best ways to provide protection is through education. As Rianne mentioned, I work for Investor Office. That's a branch within the OSC. And within that branch, we have an education and outreach team where we develop resources and we deliver presentations like these to help people, get the information they need so that they can better protect themselves from fraud, or maybe get information to help them make more informed financial decisions. We also have a research team. We do a lot of research, and we have a policy team because we develop senior-focused policies. So that said, let's talk a little bit about AI. Artificial intelligence has been in the news a lot. Every day you turn on your TV, you look at the news, something is going on in the world of AI. And really, this is taken off. It is transforming how we do business. We are encountering it every day. You might have even heard about drones making deliveries. So businesses are leveraging that technology to, provide better services. So you have drones making deliveries. You hear about testing for autonomous cars, where these cars are now self-driving. So what's happening in the capital market space? As a regulator for the capital markets, it is great we support innovation. So what are firms in that space doing? Well, they're leveraging AI to streamline complex processes. Using AI, they are able to um, eliminate some of those manual processes that take a lot of time so that it can save time and reduce errors so that it makes it easier for people as they go about doing their day-to-day lives. The other thing is there's a lot of data, and you can use AI to help crunch data, to analyze data, to maybe even do some predictions. And of course, it can also be used to support businesses in providing the services. Good example of that is when you go to a website and you get a digital assistant that pops in. So these firms are taking advantage of that technology so that they can better, deliver services to support customers. What else we found through the report that we had published last month? That there are also challenges in adoptions, because not just because something is new, firms are not just jumping on it right away and everyone's using it, right? So people take time to learn about it, understand it before they adopt whatever that new technology is and consider how they might want to use it in their business. And then, of course, you also want to look at things like, how the data can be used, the quality of data, all those things. So certainly there are challenges for business to just take on AI just because it's out there. And then, of course, there's governance. Firms right now have certain policies and practices in place, and they are applying those frameworks to ensure that they are using AI responsibly. At the OSC, we support innovation, and we want to ensure that innovation is also being responsibly used. We talked about, AI transforming business. Well, it's also transforming the way that we are using it in our day-to-day lives. Think about when we're on our phones and we're sending a text message. Through this text message, suggested words pop up as we're typing our text. This is to make our lives easier. And now you hear about people who can use AI to write research papers, compose music. We use AI when we say, "Hey Alexa, what's the temperature like today in Toronto?" Right? So we're getting all that type of information. And then, of course, people can use AI to spread false information or also defraud individuals. If you think about artificial intelligence and how it's being used in social media, you'll see that there's been a lot of stories about technology being used to create deep fake videos, right? Where, somebody's image is being copied, and then this person's image is, used to promote a product or spread false information, or maybe it's doing something entertaining, right? So you'll see different types of these types of videos popping up. But they're also using technology to defraud people. And one of the ways is through fraudulent investment scams. So someone's on there, maybe it's a well-known personality or some individual, their image is being used and they're talking about some investment opportunity and telling you how it's great. Certainly if it's a well-known person or a well-known celebrity, people tend to listen. Again, fraudsters are taking advantage of, of that technology for their gain. So one of the things we always say is, someone's out there, they're promoting an investment opportunity. You want to take the time to research that opportunity, right? Maybe you want to get a second opinion from someone who's qualified, someone who's registered. Always, you can always check registration of the individual who's promoting that investment opportunity. And it's very easy to check registration. Contact the OSC. We have a toll-free number, 1-877-785-1555. Something else that we hear about is AI being used in voice scams. And I'm actually going to start this. Oh,
Chris, just on the bottom of your screen where there's three dots where it says more, you just have to share your share sound.
sorry, I missed that.
Just on the bottom of your screen where where you see the chat box at the very right hand side, you'll see three dots that says more. You just have to share your computer's share sound.
I see it, but it doesn't show me share sound.
If you go back into share your screen.
Okay, let me just go back.
I can show it if you want.
Yeah, if you don't mind, because I didn't get that.
No problem.
So sorry, folks.
It's okay. There we go. No. Can you see that?
Yes, we see it.
Do you know who's calling? The caller sounds exactly like your sister. You're sure it's her. She says she's in trouble and needs you to send money fast. But is it really her? Artificial intelligence, or AI, can imitate anyone's voice. Protect yourself from fake voice scams. If someone says they're a family member in trouble, verify who they are. Consider having a special word only your family knows. Or ask the caller a question only the real person would know the answer to. When in doubt, hang up and call them back using a phone number you know is theirs. Remember, be cautious when anyone contacts you asking for personal information or money. For more tips to spot scams, visit getsmarteraboutmoney.ca.
Atera.
Great. Thanks, Rianne. So I'm going to go back and continue to share my screen, folks. Here we go. Share it. Don't we just love technology? There we go. So you've just seen an example of a video as to how these voice scams can work. There's been a lot of news stories, a lot of concerns about, people getting calls, someone able to clone a voice, so it sounds like someone you know, and then they're asking you for money. Like anything, anyone asking you for money, anyone asking you for even, not even money, personal information, personal data that you wouldn't normally share. If you don't know who it is, you want to verify who this person is. So you should be asking them possibly a question that only that person might know. Or tell them you call them back, hang up, contact them using contact information that you have to reach the person. In some instances, people have now set up special code words with their family that they can use to verify that the person they're speaking with is actually a family member or a friend. So there are different things you can do when you are contacted and you are not sure that the person you are speaking to is actually a family member or a friend. It's not a family member or friend, but it's someone else who's asking you to do something and you're not sure who that is. You can always say that you will call them back, look up a phone number for the organization that they work with and call them back, right? So there are different ways that you can at least try and protect yourself from people who are pretending, supposedly, to be someone you know or work for a particular organization that you might have a relationship with. Another type of scam I want to briefly touch on, and that is the crypto scams. We talked a lot about how there's advances in technology. And one of the things is that, crypto scams are where these fraudsters are promoting that people can make high returns in crypto assets, investments. So this again is another relatively new product, innovative. These are digital assets. Good example of a digital asset would be the Bitcoin. Most people are familiar with Bitcoin. So again, with these crypto scams, fraudsters are putting out ads, telling people you can make a lot of money, and then they're directing you to put money in a particular account with a crypto trading platform. You go to try and access your money. There is no money in that account. So you need to be wary when somebody is promising these high and guaranteed returns. Other things we're seeing is that people are being told download an app, and these applications can do everything for you. It's very easy. So different ways that fraudsters are using technology to try and defraud you. Like anything, if you're investing, you want to know that the person selling you that investment registered with the Securities Commission. If somebody is promoting a crypto asset investment and you want to participate, you want to buy crypto, please check that you are purchasing or buying crypto from a registered crypto trading platform. These platforms have to be registered with the OSC, and it's very easy to check registration. As mentioned, we have a toll-free number. You can call us, we can check for you, or you can go online, checkbeforeyouinvest.ca. We have lots of resources to help you if you're interested in crypto. We have a crypto article on our website. We have another crypto video. We have a crypto quiz. And of course, we have a website called getsmarteraboutcrypto.ca. And likely, I think our law enforcement partners, who you will hear from in a couple minutes, they can also tell you about other ways to protect yourself. And certainly, if you're interested in crypto, they have probably more stories that they can share about this. So what do I want you to remember from this particular part of the presentation is really to protect yourself. Protect your personal and financial information. Don't respond to unsolicited offers and opportunities. Don't share or post personal or financial information. Take time to confirm any information or opportunity. So when you get that call and it's urgent, or it sounds like it's, from someone that you know, take time to verify that person's identity, right? Somebody tells you something is urgent, something is confidential. You want to take the time to check it out before you act. The other thing to remember is that fraudsters tend to use high pressure sales tactics. So everything's urgent, they want you to act right away. Then, of course, be wary of opportunities that sound too good to be true. Somebody's promising you very high returns or guaranteed returns. You have to question that and ask yourself, how is that individual able to do that when no one else is able to promise the same? And lastly, don't forget, do a background check. Know who you are working with. Someone contacts you, they have a wonderful opportunity. You want to check that they're registered Two ways to do that. Go online, check before you invest, or call us at the OSC. Talked a little bit about fraud, and you will shortly hear from John and Jeff a lot more about fraud. But really, if you have been the victim of a fraud, please report it. You can report it to us at the OSC, you can report it to the local police, and you can certainly report it to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. Where else can you get more information? At the OSC, we have a website. It's called getsmarteraboutmoney.ca. We have lots of information on there about fraud prevention, different types of frauds, how you can protect yourself, and information on, how to help you better manage your finances. We talked about AI, artificial intelligence, how it's being used to improve our lives, make things easier for us, and certainly, on our website, we call it your new getsmarteraboutmoney.ca because it was recently relaunched because we added some new technology behind the website, one of them being an AI recommendation engine, which will, provide content based on your reading history and what you're looking for and what you're interested in. So we are also using AI to help make your lives easier for when you go on the website to find information. And lastly, different ways that you can get more information, keep informed, find out what's going on. We have an e-newsletter, Investor News, and you can subscribe to that through getsmarteraboutmoney.ca. And we have a lot of different social media channels, Reddit, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, and our YouTube channel, which has lots of videos similar to the one that you saw recently about the AI voice scams. So lots of different ways that you can get information from us. Okay, and again, I'll leave you with our contact information, and then I will end with this slide and stop sharing, and then turn it back over to Rayanne. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris, for that informative presentation. And as we know, it's sort of, we don't even realize, I think, some of the technology that's at our fingertips around AI, for our car, and we're using, Siri, or we're using whatever, this voice recognition. There's so many different things that are out there that, we don't make sometimes those connections. So we're going to let our next experts talk a little bit more around cyber security and safety, and give some reference to what's sort of happening right now in the world of scams. So John and Jeffrey, I'll just turn it over to you. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having us, and thanks, Chris, for your great information. And Jeff and I are partners together that work at the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. So we'll get the slide deck up and give you some information on how you can report your scams to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre and what we're seeing.
Jeff, are you sharing your screen?
So Jeff, do you want to share your screen, or do you have that up?
Jeff, did you want me to put, oh, there it goes. Oh, wrong screen. There we go. Great. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, what we are, what we do, and how we can help out in the resources that are available. So the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is made up of our partners you see on the bottom of the slide here. It's made with the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. It's made up of the RCMP, the Competition Bureau, and the OPP. So we'll talk about what mass marketing frauds are, what tools that we're seeing, and we'll get into some fraud prevention measures. So what is the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre? Well, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is a joint partnership. It was actually started back in the day by an OPP member, and it was started with the name of Phone Busters. You may remember seeing some of their stickers that they had, and that was to combat sort of the calls that we would get at lunch or dinner time, interrupt our day, and there would be the high pressure sales pitches that we'd have. So things have evolved. The success of the unit ended up catching the attention of the RCMP, who had a partnership with the Competition Bureau. And so that's how the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre was formed. So you see here, there's a picture of the Anti-Fraud Centre. It's in North Bay, and it's at a multi-government use building. The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is Canada's central repository for information intelligence on cyber-enabled frauds. We provide reports, recommendations, bulletins, and information that are derived from the public actually reporting to us. So we can't emphasize enough that we need the public to share their reports with us, which helps us combat cyber fraud. Next slide. So we'll talk about mass marketing fraud. What is mass marketing fraud? It's the ability of organized groups to target people around the world. We'll talk about the tools that the fraudsters have, and Chris has alluded to some of them, the different methods that they're going to try and get you to give up your hard-earned money. And then what are the top frauds that we have, and the impact of fraud in the overall reporting that you can do. Next slide. Okay, so the Canadian Fraud Centre has 3 units, and one of the major units that we have is their intake unit. So we actually have call center where people can call. It's mostly elderly folks that call in. We can only take a maximum amount of calls because of our limited resources. So we encourage the public to either call in, and if you can't get a hold of someone by the phone, you can report with our online fraud reporting system that allows you to update the information. Maybe there's screenshots or correspondence you have with a fraudster or information. And that information really helps us out, and we can talk about how it helps out. So we're encouraging any victims of fraud or an attempted fraud to report to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. So the fraud prevention and intake unit, they will identify reports where there's high losses, high risk, and any sort of new twists. And this is how we're able to put information out to the public. So Jeff is our leader in this team, and he takes the information we have and he puts it on social media, and he'll put it on our webpage. So next slide. We cannot combat cyber-enabled fraud without the public's assistance and without our stakeholders and business folks and government. So really, we try and combat fraud through fraud prevention. And so today is a great education piece. Fraud Prevention Month is in March, and so we have a lot of good information. But every day you can go to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre webpage, and we have amazing resources to help you identify what fraud may be targeting you and how to prevent yourself from being targeted. So we have a senior support unit, and this is a really neat unit. It's we have senior volunteers that actually reach out to senior victims. So when someone reports their fraud, that gets referred to the senior support unit. We also offer presentations virtually or in person, and we have senior volunteers that go and do that in the community. So if you need a presentation, certainly reach out to us. Next slide. So the unit that I co-manage is the Operational Support Unit. This is where we provide training and education to law enforcement, government, and private organizations. We provide investigative packages to investigators. We reach out, so we have our outreach program for law enforcement internationally. As we know, fraud is globalized. It's affected by people overseas that target Canadians, and they do this through technology, social media, or the internet. We also have a really great disruption program. So when people provide their suspects' phone number, emails, bad bank accounts, or websites, we work to disrupt this and try and stop the fraudsters from having the ability to reach out to people. Next slide. So part of our disruption program, we have the stats here. So you can see that we work with telephone service providers, email providers, web-based email providers, the credit card companies. We work with website hosts. We deal with many of the payment processors, Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, what have you, to try and shut down bad merchants. And we work with the financial institutions to notify them of bad bank accounts. So all these organizations can take that information. We obviously follow the privacy laws, but they can take this information and decide if they want to deplatform these accounts. Next slide. So how bad is fraud in Canada? Well, we've seen since 2020 unprecedented numbers, and they're only continue to climb. A lot of it has to do with people, now having a reliance on the internet and their devices, where anyone around the world can reach out and contact you. So in 2021, we saw staggering losses of $380 million. 2022 jumped up to 531, and we're at 448 right now million in losses, and we have 2 months remaining. So we receive about $50 million in reporting a month. So we're estimating that we're going to exceed last year's historic losses. And the interesting thing is only 5 to 10% of victims actually report their occurrence at the Anti-Fraud Center into law enforcement. So the number is actually quite staggering. Next slide. So here are top solicitation methods that we're seeing. We're seeing direct call is very, very strong. And essentially, we're seeing service scams with the door-to-door, which we're seeing the HVAC, where they're trying to pressure you to buy some sort of air conditioning or furnace and what have you. And we're seeing in the media some arrests being made where the suspects are actually getting victims to sign documents, and from there they end up handing over essentially their properties, so people can put liens on their properties, and before you know it, there's another mortgage taken out on your property. So be very careful on who you allow or speak to door to door. There's actually legislation in Ontario that you're not to attend door to door. Next slide. And here's our top frauds by reports. So identity fraud obviously is number one that's reported to us. This is compromised identities. Phishing scam is where someone may send you a text message with a link and it redirects you to a website. That website is seeking your personal information, your passwords, your banking information, so that now scammers can access your account. Extortions is what we see as the immigration scams or the CRA scams, where they're threatening you with some sort of arrest if you don't pay money for some government action. The next one is personal information that's compromised, very similar to identity theft. And then we talked about service scams. Next. So the top reported losses, Chris picked up on this and touched on a bit of it. The crypto investment scams are significant. So of our $530 million in losses, 308 were related to crypto investment scams. So really do your due diligence, conduct Google or open source media searches, and look up the investment venue before you invest any of your money. Romance scam, this is particularly targeting elderly folks, maybe people that are widows or are seeking relationships older in life, and they're being convinced to send money for romance fraud for people overseas. So highest losses for the smallest amount of victims. Spear phishing is when your business gets attacked, where they ask you to send money to an account. The account has been altered, where it's the suspect's bank account that you're sending money to. So it's quite extensive. And again, we have their service scams. Next. So Jeff, I'm not sure when you're going to pick up the slides. But I can touch base on this. So how are the victims sending their money? Wire transfer is number one. We see that related to investment scams and romance scams. And number two is where people are reporting their losses, but don't tell us how they're sending their money. But it's up to 158 million. And then cryptocurrency. So we've touched on the cryptocurrency investment scams, but We're also seeing scammers around the world request victims to go to a mall or a convenience store that has a cryptocurrency ATM machine and deposit their money in there and then transfer the crypto overseas. So we have to remind ourselves, once you send your crypto, it can't be returned, and it's a one-shot deal here. So, and then e-transfers, always be cautious with the frauds that have to do with rental scams, job scams, loan scams, or any sort of online Kijiji classified sort of scam. They're asking for e-transfers. And then direct deposits has to do with the business email compromise. Next slide.
So thanks, John. This is where I'll take over. Yeah, so I mean, there's obviously a lot of different fraud types that are documented at the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, over 30 different fraud types. So when, as part of our key messaging has been for the last couple of years, is focusing on what's in a fraudster's toolbox. What methods are they using to try to fool you to send money or personal information? First on the list, we see search engine optimization, which is, you know, kind of a big word for, you know, the victim going to Google and doing a search for, you know, whether they're having issues with their computer or printer, or simply a customer service phone number, where, you know, they enter the company name into Google. There's a good chance that the first 5 to 10 results will be fraudulent websites. So something to keep an eye out for. Also used commonly in investment scams, service scams, and so just something to keep in mind when you're doing a search, that in a lot of different fraud types, those first 5 to 10 results could be fraudulent. Fraudulent ads, this includes ads on social media where we might see like a blowout sale. Obviously, you know, our messaging has always been, if it seems too good to be true, then, you know, it more than likely is. Ads even on the internet, if you're surfing the web, and you may come across fraudulent ads. Again, so important to take your time with anything. If you see an ad, I think, you know, they're really preying on people trying to save money generally as a population, due to the current cost of living in our country. And what they do is they prey on vulnerabilities, right? So offering something at a very low price is really tempting for most of us. So we have to kind of, you know, take a step back, do a research before providing credit card information for merchandise or whatever you're thinking about buying. Compromised social media accounts. So we're looking at accounts that you think maybe your friends or family members, but you might be getting a strange message offering a grant, or they saw your name on a list for a prize, or trying to get you to invest into a cryptocurrency platform. If you get a strange message, always best to reach out to the person directly by telephone, for example, to confirm if that message is actually coming from them or not. Sense of urgency, threats, very common and in multiple scams that we document at the CAFC. Spoofing, this refers to call ID spoofing. So fraudsters have the ability to make any phone number show up on your call display. So never base the authenticity or legitimacy of the phone call on the number you're seeing on your call display. Always make the outgoing call, no matter what the person claims to be offering on the other end. So now we'll get into a few different fraud types here. I know we're getting a little short on time. So the first one is, of course, the emergency grandparent scam. To give everyone an idea, there's been an exponential increase in reporting related to the grandparent scam since 2021. 2.5 million was lost in 2021, and that actually increased to a little under 10 million in 2022. So what we're seeing here is a handout created by the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center and the OPP, preventative messaging. So basically, a phone call claiming to be a loved one or a grandchild, saying that they're being charged with an offense, and basically that if they don't, they need bail money right away, or they'll be going to jail, right? So of course, I think Chris touched on this a little bit. It might be a good idea to have a code word with the family members, but the best way, again, is going back to that spoofing messaging, right? always better to let the person know you're going to call them back. If you have the number for your grandchild in your contact list, or your notebook, or wherever you keep the list of phone numbers, let them know you're going to call them back and make the outgoing call. So investment scams, and I know Chris touched on this quite a bit as well. We estimate that roughly, over 50% of investment scams reported to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre are related to crypto investments. Of course, I mentioned preying on vulnerabilities. The vulnerability with this one is they're preying on the fact that Canadians generally have less knowledge regarding crypto, right? So if a person's deciding to go into something without any knowledge, they're automatically putting themselves at risk of being a victim. Reported losses, like John mentioned, a little under 306 million to investment scams in 2022. Put that into perspective, where we estimate only 5 to 10 million, or 5 to 10% of victims actually report. It's a huge amount. Search engine optimization, compromised social media accounts, fraudulent ads, are all the main methods that fraudsters are using. And you want to keep in mind, a very good practice to get into to verify if a company is registered or not. But always keep in mind that these fraudulent companies could be copying the name of a legitimate company. So they may alter, the one letter in the domain name, one number in the phone number. Just always take the steps necessary to verify. If you verify that it's registered, go a step further and verify all their contact information, verify that domain that they're using, their URL, their phone number, verify maps to see where their location is. Take the time you need. And of course, reach out to a friend, reach out to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, reach out to the Ontario Securities Commission, compile that information. And with that information, it should give you enough to make the right decision. So romance scams have been around for a number of years. We're actually seeing them now linked to investment scams, where, a typical romance scam will start off by maybe a friend request, or, meeting somebody on a dating website. The pictures or the profiles often seem too good to be true in most cases. So, if you get a friend request from someone with a picture that seems like a model or somebody in the military, it should be your first red flag. Not to say that it's not safe to date online, but it's important to know what to watch for. So if somebody quickly professes their love for you, and they always turn down opportunities, or you ask to meet them and they always come up with an excuse, it's another red flag. But most importantly, never send money to anybody you've never met. And if you are communicating with someone and they try to get you to invest into a cryptocurrency platform or whatever type of investment they're coming up with, know that that's a very common fraud reported to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. It's more than likely a scam as well. So John touched on extortion. Many different types of extortion reported to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. We're looking at sextortion. Of course, the sin scam historically would have been CRA, where they claimed you owed back taxes, and if you didn't pay immediately, you would be arrested. They've now switched it to, they've detected fraudulent activity related to their social insurance number. They may claim to be Service Canada Border Services Agency. And basically that if you don't comply with whatever they're requesting, providing personal information and sending money to prove that your money or bank accounts are actually yours, that you could be arrested. Of course, ransomware falls under this. And there are also fake threatening emails claiming to be from the RCMP, claiming that you have been basically breaking the law or doing something you shouldn't have been on the internet. And if you don't send reply to the email and send funds, then you're risking being arrested. Next, moving on to service scams. So of course, tech support scams have been around for many years. Generally a pop-up that the victim will receive on the computer, which completely freezes their computer, telling them that their computer has been detected for fraudulent activity, or that your computer is full of viruses and you have to phone the phone number that's on the pop-up. If the victim calls a number, suspects will ask, or they'll claim to be Microsoft or Apple or whatever the company they think they can fool you with, and they'll ask for remote access to your computer. Once that's done, you're pretty much giving them access to all your personal information and putting yourself at risk for identity fraud. So very important that you never give remote access to anyone, especially, you know, through a pop-up, a phone number you haven't done research on, or an incoming phone call. Home repairs and products, John touched on this a little bit. I think I'll skip over and I'll go to cell phone plans, which is probably the most prominent variation of service scams that we're seeing at the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. So you might get a phone call claiming to be your cell phone service provider and saying, hey, we have this amazing plan to offer you. We have an iPhone 15 and a $40 a month plan. But you have to accept this deal today because it's not going to be around tomorrow, right? So there is a sense of urgency. And if you agree to it, then they claim that they have to do a credit check, and automatically they say that they either require your driver's license number, your social insurance number, which of course puts you at risk for identity fraud. And if you go through with the whole process, fraudsters may actually order a cell phone with your identity, get the cell phone shipped to your home, claim that it's not the right cell phone, give you an alternate address to send the cell phone to, victim thinking that they're sending it back to the company when they're actually sending it over to the suspects, and they're helping the suspects commit identity fraud against the victim. So identity theft and identity fraud, the difference between the two: identity theft, either you were part of a breach where your personal information was exposed, or you may have clicked on a link through phishing, or so many different ways of being a victim of identity theft. It just refers to losing personal information. Now, when that personal information is actually used, like your social insurance number to open credit cards or cell phone accounts, bank accounts, apply for government benefits, that is identity fraud. So important to protect yourself if you have been a victim of identity theft by following steps that are listed on the CAFC website. If you follow those steps, then you'll prevent yourself from being a victim of identity fraud. So phishing and smishing, I think we, at one point or another, we've probably all received a phishing text message or email. They're getting more legitimate looking, where, I touched on spoofing a little bit, where even the email address might look legitimate. Just if you always stick by the rule of never clicking on links or downloading attachments from unsolicited emails and verifying where they're actually coming from. One of the big ones is, a phishing message claiming to be from the CRA, offering you either a payment or asking you to download an attachment. Of course, if this is the case, if you get a message and you're not sure, it looks legitimate, best practice, reach out, look up the phone number for the CRA and make that outgoing call and confirm with them if that message actually came from them or not. So here's one example of phishing that we very common variation. They might claim that the city, a city of Toronto, a city of Calgary, or whatever city you're in, saying that there's an infraction and you must click on a link to avoid collection activity. So with this here, a perfect example of, if they claim to be the city of Calgary, you're not sure, reach out to the city of Calgary and verify if you have an infraction that has to be paid or not. Again, the main goal here is to get you to click on the link and provide your credit card information. Unsolicited message, avoid clicking on links. So here's an example of phishing. Of course, Chris touched on AI a little bit, where, spelling might not be one of the red flags, but from what we're seeing, it still is, where, they're spelling mistakes and so many different variations of phishing messages. So something still to keep an eye on. Of course, the generic addressee. So in a lot of cases, it'll say attention. So for me, it would say attention Jeff.Horncastle, because that would be the first part of my email address, right? They wouldn't refer to me as attention Jeff Horncastle. They would be the first part of my email address. So another red flag. And of course, that famous link that they want you to click on, or even this is a hyperlink where there is a URL associated to it. So if you're on a computer, you can hover over that hyperlink and you'll see the actual URL that's behind it. So all this to say is that, victimization can happen very quickly. You might be half asleep and think that it's legitimate because you have one eye open or whatever the case may be, right? It happens very quickly. If you just take the time and really analyze what you're receiving and look into it a little bit, you'll more than likely prevent yourself from being a victim. Merchandise scams, like I said, if it's, very tricky because as we all know, fake reviews are out there. Still an excellent way to verify, but I mentioned putting, a bunch of information, a collection of information together before making a decision. So whether you're seeing an ad on social media or you're doing a search on the internet, just being aware that search engine optimization is out there. And verifying contact information, the website, the URL that's behind the company that they're claiming to be. Always do your due diligence and verify everything as much as you can, and you'll save yourself from being a victim, especially around the holiday season. We do see an increase in merchandise scams, so definitely something to keep an eye out, keep in mind, and just to protect yourself from being a victim. Vendor fraud is actually when a victim is sending or selling items online or on social media marketplace. The most common variation that we're seeing is a victim is selling, let's say, a cell phone, and the person, the criminal contacts them claiming that they're interested in buying the product and they would like to send an e-transfer, an Interac e-transfer to purchase the item. Now, once the victim gets the email, basically what the email says, very legitimate looking email from Interac that says that the funds have been sent, but requires a tracking number from the victim in order to be able to receive the funds. So naturally, the victim goes to Canada Post, ships the item, returns to their home, puts the tracking number in, and at that point, realize that the email they got was a fraudulent email, and now they have to kind of scramble and try to intercept the package that they've sent to the criminals. So just something to keep an eye out on. There's also another variation that claims to be PayPal. If you're selling a vehicle online and somebody is trying to ask you to verify your vehicle history by going to an alternate website where you want to go to Carfax, but Carfax is not good enough for the buyer, 100% a scam. Don't go to websites that are sent to you. Again, sense of urgency with this. And if Carfax isn't accepted by the buyer, then move on. So what to do if you're a victim? I'm not going to read through because I think we're a little crunched for time here. These steps are all listed on our website at antifraudcenter.ca. You click on the tab that's called What to Do If You're a Victim. And this basically, like I mentioned, protects yourself from being a victim of identity fraud if your personal information has been compromised, or in other words, if you've been a victim of identity theft. So most importantly, how to report fraud. I think, again, John touched on this. It's so important to report fraud. Although, the belief out there, I think, popular belief is that why should I report to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre? They don't investigate. They're, good chance they're not going to get my money back. Well, there's way more to it than that. We collect information. First of all, the first part of our mandate is to try to educate and share that prevention messaging with Canadians like we're doing today, like we do on social media, like we do on our website. So if we see anything new, we try to alert the public as effectively and efficiently as we can. And on top of that, we were able to link information related to mass marketing fraud and identity fraud across Canada and share that information with not only local police across the country in Canada, but internationally. Because as we know, mass marketing fraud, the vast majority is done from countries overseas, right? So, I always give the example, if there's a victim in Halifax, another one in Toronto, and another one in In BC, the information can be easily linked together in a central repository, which is the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. So there's so much value in reporting. Of course, so important to report to local police if you have been a victim, and to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. And I will mention that you don't necessarily have to be a victim to report to the CAFC. We accept attempts of fraud. So if you have contact information for fraudsters, websites that they've been using any kind of payment information or bank account information, phone numbers, email address, whatever information you have, we would like to get that from you. So now you can report 2 ways to the Anti-Fraud Centre, either by phoning our toll-free number 1-888-495-8501 or by visiting our website antifraudcentre.ca. And that wraps up our presentation.
Great. Thank you so much, Jeffrey and John, for that excellent presentation, overview, all the different scams. And we know there's so many different new ones all the time. I did put some links in the chat box during the session today, just for people to go after. I'll put those on the website as well. We do have a few questions. If everybody could come back online. I know that John was answering some of the questions in the Q&A box, but just for other people who may not have seen those, somebody was asking about how they could learn more about the senior support unit, about becoming a volunteer. John, do you want to just sort of just make a quick comment about that?
Yeah, so Stephanie Cynical is our coordinator, and she's an OPP employee that's seconded to the Anti-Fraud Centre, and so she's the one that would recruit, train, and manage the senior volunteers. So you can always reach out to us, and we can put you in contact with Stephanie.
Great. And I think this is a common question about being, once you're frauded once, that they come back again and again, sometimes several times. So how can people kind of avoid that? Because, you know, we hear about lists being shared or sold, or, you know, it's underground. And how can people prevent that from happening to them?
Yeah, we know that the percentage is about 33% of elderly victims become re-victimized. We do know that once you've sent money to suspects, you're now on a list, essentially. So they're going to look to retarget you. We know with the crypto investment fraud, once you've lost your funds, there's always a secondary fraud that happens where they say they're going to take a percentage of your losses and help you recover the funds. So it makes it very difficult. So the Anti-Fraud Centre has a guide what to do if you're a victim. Jeff was able to gloss over there. We just suggest you look at that, and there's prevention tips. Essentially, you know, slow things down, be your own sort of detective, look online, type in whatever you think it is, plus fraud. You'll be amazed to see how many different chat groups are out there and information that's available for you. So, you know, just like Jeff says, take some time to look at the origin of the email. And if it's, you know, they're saying they're from your bank, look at the back of your bank card and call the bank directly. That's their best advice.
Yeah, because I
think. Oh, sorry. And I'm just going to add to that a bit, John. Great information. I think it's so important that, you know, for example, anybody that was at the webinar today, obviously, you know, there's so many more people that aren't educated or vulnerable. I think it's so important for people to, you know, whatever information they've retained from today, to try to share that information with family members, loved ones, anyone they think may be vulnerable. And that can go a long way. Because, I mean, you know, the CFC can push information out on social media, on our website, through webinars, but obviously it's so challenging to get to everyone that it can make a huge difference just by sharing that information with our family members.
Great. Well, I know that there were a couple other questions. I will post all the links as I mentioned. We are a little bit over time right now, and so just gives us means to do another session or a follow-up one based on some of the people's questions and comments. So that's why we really do appreciate people's input when we do have these sessions, because it does help us plan for the next one. I was going to post a quick just a quick poll just to get some information to see if any, just in terms of knowledge of people who are online. If you wouldn't mind just answering, this is anonymous, if you learn new information about elder abuse, meaning like frauds and scams today from our presentation. We do appreciate your feedback. As I said, it just kind of helps us gauge where we're going and how we did today. We will send again that follow-up information. I do want, as people are doing that, I do want to remind people that we do have an upcoming webinar, or sorry, conference on gender-based violence next Thursday on the 29th. So you can go to our website. There's a banner on the front page. You can find more information about that event. And we continually host webinars, so you can check out our upcoming webinars that are happening. We have a training also coming up on risk assessments if anybody's interested in attending that as well. So I'm just going to end that poll. Most people indicated that they agreed that they learned a lot of new information today as well. And I just wanted to, there's one other polling question. Oops, go back. And then asking if you will use some of this knowledge in your future. So what you've learned today around prevention, will you be using that hopefully in the future of those tips that Chris and John and Jeff have shared today to help prevent that? Not if it's not for yourself, maybe for your neighbor or a other family member, to pass this information along. I know we have someone from a newspaper who's taking part, which is awesome. So we can share that information to the public to get this information out. And we know we try to do as much education as we can to reach everybody in our audience. And we do value the newspapers as well as online materials to get this information. So, so thank you everybody for today. Thank you for our speakers, our ASL interpreters as usual. And I appreciate everyone's time today to join us. And I will have this webinar up hopefully by tomorrow, so people will be able to download it or view it if they weren't able to attend today. So thank you very much, everyone.